doing a VSR video breakdown on Brady Day. Her and her brother Landon started coming to me, like I said, I think about the middle of December. Kind of took on a challenge of starting to work with her and another girl, Autumn, who are both softball pitchers. To me, I don't know the ins and outs of softball pitching, obviously, like I do baseball, but the technical application to the delivery still makes sense to me because a lot of the levers, a lot of the energy transfer, a lot of that stuff still applies the same. So it makes perfect sense to me. I'm not saying that I'm the best pitching coach in the world when it comes to this, but I mean when we're talking about arm care, mobility, taking care of our bodies, stuff like that. I feel like I can address all of that stuff really well. I'm going to go through a breakdown with her that is a little bit different than what I would normally do for, say, all of my baseball guys, just because, like I said, the technical application of this stuff is more so where I'm getting on board with doing this softball deal. Let's see if I can get this to zoom in right. I think that'll be good. Okay. So, three things that we're going to look at with her. The first thing being kind of what she's doing with this first motion after that rock. She goes back and then she comes forward. Okay. One thing that I want you to notice, it's kind of hard to see. I had to crop this video kind of weird. But if I let it play through, maybe you'll be able to tell. Maybe not, but it's very much a kind of gradual jump into that front foot strike. Meaning, as she leaves her back foot here, she's creating kind of this deal. You know, softball's a little different just because that foot is facing forward, so you kind of got to wait for it to turn over. But we want as much direct, direct contact as possible. We want to eliminate doing this stuff. Okay. So that makes sense to me because that applies for baseball too. If you're jumping in this way, I mean, you're losing energy. They're going off of flat ground, so it's different. But for baseball, you want to be basically going down and into the ground, eliminating any of that. So when we're looking at that part of it, you can tell right there, there's a big kind of just hump in there. You can tell because she lands real hard on the front of her foot. It's kind of cut off just a little bit. She gets in a foot strike about right, kind of settles in right there, maybe about right there. Okay, so that's the first thing, is there's just a lot of that going on. So we've worked really hard to get direct from back to front, keeping that energy intact. The next thing that I'm going to want to look at is when she actually settles into that front foot. You can see right here the axis of her shoulders. Now this one isn't necessarily her biggest thing, but we've talked about being very direct from as her glove goes up. We want to eliminate, I guess, pulling here to make the arm go early. So, sorry, my phone continuously goes off. But anyway, you can kind of see that she's just like getting early with this pull here, and that ultimately is going to turn into less like application time on the ball. So we can look at that right there. We're going to say that she kind of settles like right there. I'm going to put this up and I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. So from right there, when she hits foot strike, we're going to take her out to where we first kind of see her hand peeking around her body, like in there somewhere. So let's see how long that takes. Okay, so from the time that she hit foot strike, which is right there, her hand kind of peeks around her body. We're looking at like that, okay? 0.76. We'll look at that number kind of as like a percentage of application, I guess you could say. Either way, it'll make sense as we move into the next couple clips. The other thing that I want to look at with her is this position that she's in kind of at release. Okay, so that same type of deal in here. Now I'm going to try to go off the center mass or stabilization, which would be this front leg in here, you know. That's what's stabilizing the force that she's bringing from that backside. So the center mass obviously being like where her, like right in the middle of her leg. I'm going to use this angle. I'm going to go up just a little bit because the angle number is going to show down underneath it, and I want you to be able to see. I want to see what the number is. So if we're going right off the middle, it's pretty close. We'll go from right there. We're going to go right to the front of her face. Okay, we're going to take her right. We're going to take it right in there. And now I'm going to take this and try to just draw it back parallel. Let's see, what do we got? Right there? Close enough. Okay, once again, this number, I'm just looking at that as kind of like a percentage of what she's bringing into the pitch. So what she's started back here and now bringing forward, you can tell that she's just like back behind it. You know, she's got like, again, she's kind of got this type of deal going on. She's kind of bowed. You want to see at release, you want to see this line being like as straight as possible. You can just see that there's just not a ton of force moving forward. And that's probably because we've had a lot of energy lost through the back to the front. The shoulders have pulled off early. And it's just, and she is a really good athlete. So the first thing that I really noticed is that her delivery, comparable to how she was like as an athlete, just wasn't all that dynamic. So that's the one thing that we've really addressed, is just trying to make her delivery as dynamic as possible. Now, I mean, she starts to stabilize up right there, but I mean, the ball's been gone since right there, you know, so it doesn't really matter that it comes forward, because it didn't come forward when she was still touching the ball. Okay, so let's see if I can zoom in on this a little bit. All right, so anyway, let's bring that out just a bit right there. All right, so let's look at those same things. Now with her, I've kind of put this step in. I'm not 100% sure, like on the rules and stuff like that. I know some things are different. I don't know if she's going to be allowed to take that step right there. But either way, if you looked at the first clip, her feet were together. It's going to ultimately be the same thing, because she's going to get these arms swinging back and get the same thing going there. So either way, if she's got to change that up, that's pretty minor. All right, so let's look at that first thing, like I said, which really was how she was coming forward. You can tell still got a little bit of a hop in there, you know, but one thing that you gotta, like I already said, that's got to turn over. You know, the foot's got to completely turn over, so you got to kind of wait, and you don't want to cheat it, because that's how you're generating what you're taking back, what you're taking back, and then what you're going forward with. Okay, but you can still tell it's more direct. Let's see if I can take it from right here. Okay, it's getting into the ground more efficient, so that's good. All right, now what I want to look at is where her shoulders are when she settles into her front foot. Okay, we can tell already if I draw kind of this deal here, you can tell those shoulders are facing, are parallel to the camera a lot better, so that's good. So once we go from there, foot strike, we're going to pull up our timer here, and as soon as we see that hand peek out in front is going to tell us kind of what I was talking about, like application time. So there we are, 0. Okay, I don't remember what that first number was, but I know that that number's more. So, sorry, I should just turn my phone off when I do these. I know that number's more for sure. Okay. So the reason that that number matters is because, I mean, the longer that you're pushing behind something forcefully and quickly, the faster it's going to move. Or I mean, think about pushing a car or pushing anything. I mean, the longer you push something and the harder that you do it, it's gonna move through. It's gonna just move faster and more forcefully. Okay, now let's pull this up. So like I said, I want to look at that center mass kind of her leg up to the front of her face. That might be a little. Go from there right to there. Try to draw it back. Parallel. Okay, so again, that number being kind of like a percentage of what she's transferring from back here into there. I know that I can't remember what the exact number was on the other one either, but I know that number's higher. Okay, let's look at this last clip. Again, I took about like 10 different videos of these guys, but really, if I put all 10 in from week to week, some were better than others. I just really picked the ones that I thought were going to give the best representation of the changes that we've made. Okay, so looking in, let's see if I can get that. Looking in at this right here. Let's take her in a foot strike. Okay, you can see already, look at the push. It's much more direct. Okay, and this is a tough thing to teach because it's not something that I can feel for her or anyone for that matter. You got to just feel yourself not being so much of this and more of just that. More of that, I guess I should say. Okay, but you can just tell right there it's getting, and even though she lands on her toe, it's okay because it's just there's no arguing that it's just more direct into the ground. Now the camera is back behind her just a little bit, so you could say, well, it just looks better from here. Are the shoulders actually back more? I think that there's pretty much no arguing that. I mean, that foot gets down right there. I mean, that shoulder axis is pretty much there. Okay, again, kind of drawn the same type of deal that I did. I mean, those shoulders are pretty much facing us, so that's a really good job. You can tell that leg is straight. All right, let's get our timer up. Now, as soon as that hand kind of starts to peek around her is when we're going to see what our application percentage time was. Okay, so ball's gone since we're behind her. I mean, that's, I'm going to say about where it would be if the camera was straight on with her. Okay, I'm pretty sure that number, pretty sure that number's higher than the last one, and I know for sure it's higher than the first one. So that right there, you can't argue. Again, that's why I felt like I was able to teach this, is just because I looked at it from a more technical standpoint. It wasn't like, oh, I've got all the tricks to get her to do what I want her to do. It's just if I can teach her to move more efficiently, then inherently that's going to affect her delivery, teach her arm to get stronger, so on and so forth. Okay, again, let's look at this. Kind of make this bigger if I can. Try to get center mass of her leg right up to the front of her face. Draw back parallel. It's pretty close. Okay, there you go. More drive from back here into there. You can tell because it's more stabilized through here. Shoulders are back longer. There's more there's just more force in the delivery. I mean, if we want to tally it up, okay, yeah, we've got one thing that is less energy being lost through the push, which is going here. Okay, that's one thing. More stabilization because of the fact that the leg's getting in the ground sooner. Shoulders are back more, which means that there's more application time to the ball. So if you're pushing the ball harder, then ball's moving faster. And the better that you get yourself, that she gets herself into this front leg, which, like I said, is more stable. There you go. I mean, there's 4 things right there that just inherently are going to affect how forceful she can move, or how forceful that she can move a ball. So I'm going to let you guys just look at this next clip. She's a good strike thrower. I'll look at this first one right here just so you can kind of see. And then we'll just let this roll. I mean, look at how far back her arm is as she's moving out. I mean, look at that. So that right there is the line I was talking about with her shoulders. Okay, awesome. Let this roll. Anyway, I'll let this play. I'm going to get her and her brother in next week when I get back, and I'll get these guys up on video from week to week. All right, guys. Thanks.